Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with another hip hop topic. And of course, with all the Jay Z talk lately and all of the discussions and theories and just all of the news surrounding Jay Z, I started thinking about his catalog, which got me to thinking which project of his was the best. Now, as far as solo albums, now he has one of the most difficult catalogs to examine or to determine his greatest one because they all have their certain purposes and there's always some kind of context behind all of these albums because having Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint, and the Blueprints and the Black Album in your catalog, you like them for different reasons. And I've never heard anyone or one show of people definitively say that the best album was one album. They're all over the place. Some people say Reasonable Doubt, some people say 444, some people say the Black Album, some people say you know, one of the blueprints. So they're all over the place, and that just shows you the diversity or the deep catalog that you have when there's not a definitive best album in your catalog. So I had the unpopular opinion of saying that Jay Z's best project is American Gangster. Now, American Gangster was inspired from a soundtrack. There's a lot of 70s type samples, 70 type sounds. If hip hop existed in the 70s, this what it would sound like if Jay-Z was born in, the 50s and put out a project in the 70s, a hip hop project in the 70s. It would sound a lot like that. And I think that's what I like about it, the nostalgic sound, but not only the nostalgic sound I like, but the nostalgic type references, the flows, and of course it's referencing to Frank Lucas from American Gangster, that the American Gangster film was based on. So a lot of that has to do with that, but I think American Gangster as well really doesn't have any skips on it, and for the most part, it ti it it it's timely. I mean, it's timeless. A lot of the songs are have soundless have aged well, with the exception of, like, "Hello Brooklyn" with Lil Wayne. That was a song that really didn't fit. I think it was more made so for radio, and Lil Wayne was hot at the time, so I think it made more sense to do that song. But the rest of the songs, have aged well, especially it being like a '07 project. It's about 20 years old now. It's difficult to believe it's that old, but being that old, that project aged very well, and it was, in my opinion, the most cohesive J project we've ever had. Just because of the sound and the fluidness of the music and the production, the rapping, all of that stuff is very fluid, except for that Hello Brooklyn song, which is still a good song, but it just didn't age well in my opinion, just because it just didn't fit the flow of the album. When they talk about, the chronological fitting of sounds, I don't think that belonged anywhere on the album. But other than that, I think everything else fit the project well. And I think this project also showcased Jay-Z's versatility or his strength of being a storyteller because he has some of those same elements of Nas, but he doesn't always exhibit it because he's talking about street stuff and he's rapping over street beats. More so than Nas is rapping over more soulful stuff. But I think this project, Jay was able to be lock in as a storyteller. So songs like I Know, which is produced by Pharrell, which is a big metaphor for addiction. And the video, he's not even on the video. It's just a woman on the video, and it's just making references or a metaphor for drug addiction, which a very clever song that he made. But it's a song that a Nas, you would expect a Nas or someone on Wu Tang or Scarface or somebody to make that type of song. But for Jay Z to make that song just showed his strength as a writer, his versatility as an artist, especially as a hip hop artist. So that is one of my favorite songs in the project just because of the metaphoric ability that it has, but also it highlighted Jay-Z's strong storytelling abilities, and especially over that '70s sounding production that they had. So, but it's a rare for an artist to have their best project, in my opinion, in their at their 10th album because this was his 10th solo album. Because most people, when they get to the 10th album, they done ran out of stuff to say. They're pretty much saying the same things over, and the message gets stale. But he was able to reinvigorate his sound or rejuvenate his sound like no other artist has. And it's rare. It's few artists that can pull this feat, like a Nas or a LL Cool J. Of course, Jay Z did it, so he has that ability. So it's only a few artists that can do that, and mostly legacy acts can do this. Artists that had one or two great projects and put out maybe five mediocre projects after that can't really pull off this feat. So it was another sign of Jay Z's greatness to be able to pull off this feat as well because after American Gangster, there's really not a project after this one that I like from Jay. Maybe he'll put out one in the near future that I would like, but 444 was okay. It had a couple of songs that I like, but this is the project that I listen to Jay's that you can listen all the way through. Now, Reasonable Doubt is one of those as well, but it didn't age the same way that this American Gangster album did, and of course, American Gangster came out 20 years, well, 10 years from that album, but this project was just phenomenal in terms of sounding and cohesiveness, and it's a concept album as well, so I think most of the time I'm a sucker for concept albums, and he did a great job of doing this project and hitting the concept of it. Because when you think about Jay-Z's projects, Reasonable Doubt was ahead of his time. Blueprint, he was hitting the stride, and the Black Album, he was solidified. But American Gangster, he showed that he was one of the greats, and that age wasn't a death sentence in hip hop. Because even though hip hop is only 50 years old, most people didn't want to hear 50-year-old rappers in the 90s. They didn't want to hear them in the early 2000s. And Jay was one of those first artists to break through and LL Cool J, of course, to actually put out music and be older and be embraced by the youth for it. Not a lot of artists can do that. Now they're starting to do so more so than ever because you have people like Two Chains who are a little later in their careers. You have people like Andre 3000 who can still put out songs here and there and still be embraced, and it's okay. And Nas as well. So these artists can put out projects in their 50s and it's okay opposed to the 90s and early 2000s, nobody wanted to hear a 50-year-old rapper. So he did break that barrier. So I do think American Gangster is Jay-Z's best project. So tell me what you think Jay-Z's best project is, and until next time, see you next time.